to the March 9th, 2020 meeting of the Auburn Board of Selectmen. We've just come out of executive session to reconvene our open session. Per the open meeting law, I asked if is there anybody in the audience recording this meeting? Being none, can we all stand and salute the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. First on the agenda is public comments. I have a couple here that have signed up. Is there anybody else that wishes to be recognized under public comments? Okay. The first we have
I think it's Wayne Page.
Wayne Page. And summary is to vote. Mr. Page.
Good evening. My name is Wayne Page. Hi. Wayne Page. I live at 90 Old Common Road, and I am up here tonight for a couple reasons about voting. One, that I will be running for Selectmen and Housing Authority, and I can do both. I had a lot of questions about whether I could do that or not, and that's why I'm here, one of the reasons why I'm here tonight. Now, to move on, I just would like to ask the town of residents voters to please come out and vote this May. We had such a falling out last year at voting, and I just want people to think this is about you. Your taxes, your money, everything. It's you. You own the town, not the boards. There's some that are members of the town, but you need to get out and put your best foot forward for the town and for yourselves. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Page. Just as a comment, this board has had a couple of different discussions during our meetings about the voter turnout in the past, and hoping that we receive a little bit more of a voter turnout in the future.
I want to thank you, and I did want to come up to just express it as a resident and a voter of the town. You can, hopefully, you will continue to talk to people, the residents of this town, and bring it up and up and up so people realize that it is in May and we need them to get out and vote. This is for them. This is for the future of the town of Auburn.
Thank
the
you,
people
Mr.
who live
Page.
in it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Darlene Coyle from the Board of Health. Mrs. Coyle, welcome.
Hi, good evening. I wanted to just let you know that the Board of Health is aware of the evolving situation with coronavirus, and we have taken some steps to try to bring awareness. I think everybody is watching things change on a daily basis. We've tried to increase awareness, such as visuals around the town buildings, something that we've kind of put in place, and just reminding people to take normal, sensible precautions at this time where it is flu season, normal things that you would take to protect yourself. You know, washing hands, using the hand sanitizer, staying away from people that are sick, and if you are sick, to actually stay home. We also encourage anybody when you're going out into the public, if you're touching things that are commonly touched, to wash your hands, and also just letting you know, here at the town, we've already been meeting to talk about it collectively with the town administration and across the town departments. We are working together to make sure we stay aware of the situation and to exercise plans that we have in place. Over the past I'm going to say over the past 10 plus years, the Board of Health has been working through emergency dispensing site plans and exercise those plans on a yearly time frame. So We do have plans in place. We just encourage people to make sensible decisions about protecting their health, and we would encourage you to, seek information, stay aware, and take normal precautions to do that. We have on the town website, it's actually on the spotlight area, so at the bottom of the homepage, there are links that will take you right to several of the coronavirus websites. So there's one for Mass Department of Public Health, there's one for the CDC, and they're updating those several times a day. I think everybody has kind of watched the news and can see that the state is still sending the message that the risk here in Massachusetts is still low, but that doesn't mean that people shouldn't take normal precautions to protect themselves. So I just wanted to bring to your attention that the town is meeting on a regular basis to talk about the situation and staying informed. Thank you.
Thank you, darling. If I may, yes, the TV is just inundated with messages about this coronavirus and what's going on with it, and we really appreciate you coming forward on the local level. But could you said that the town is meeting. Can you just let the town know that we are proactive and who is meeting in these committee meetings and what you're discussing?
Sure. So on a regular basis, we do have a LEMPC, so it's a local emergency planning management committee, and on those committees, we have the first responders, so the fire, the police, we have the schools, we have the health department, we have the LEPC, the CERT team, which is also part of the planning and exercising any plans that we might need to put in place if we had to open up shelters or emergency dispensing sites. So that happens on a regular basis throughout the year, about 4 times a year. But more recently, because of the coronavirus and the evolving situation where it's changing almost daily, we have several departments right across the board. So Ms. Jacobson has called together all town departments to meet, including police, fire, health, building, the senior center, the library, schools, just right across the whole town municipality. So those meetings are taking place, and we are meeting regularly.
Thank you, Darlene. I'll thank you and the rest of the board, and I will also turn and thank Jacobson for, being proactive and going forward with this. It is a very, very important thing that we're looking at, and I think proactivity is preventative, and I think it's good for the town of Auburn, and wish us all luck. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. First on the agenda, we have no public we have public comments, but now we have public hearings. We got a change of manager at Bentley Pub at 602 Southbridge Street, and we have the applications here in front of us. Is there somebody from Bentley's Pub here? We're going to just, talk about this, and unless there's going to be a change of the operation.
Motion to open the hearing.
Yes.
Second.
Yes, I'm sorry. Would you, motion to open the hearing?
Second.
Second, okay. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Okay, then I guess I will have the representative come up and... You all have the application in, and it's basically to change the manager's name at the Bentley Pub on Southbridge Street. Is there, I'll ask you to identify yourself, and
Stephen Bingham,
you are from?
Bentley Pub. I'm the general manager of Bentley Pub.
Do you have any plans to change the operation?
No.
Okay, so basically it's just a change of management?
That's it.
Okay. Is there any questions? from the board. Mr.
Maybe you could just share a little bit of you just came to Bentley's, so share a little bit of your experience.
Yeah, I have 20 years' experience in the restaurant business, 17 of it with Piccadilly Pub. So obviously, most of you are aware it's the same owner of the building and the business. So I took over in August, and one of the assistant managers is currently listed as the name on the liquor license, and I'm just looking to, it's my responsibility, so I'll put my name on the license.
Is there anything else? Have you got anything else? Motion to close the hearing.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the change of manager.
Second that.
Is there any further discussion? Being none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you, and good luck.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next we have Troy's Incorporated Retail Liquor License Amendment. It's the alteration of the premises at 125 Oxford Street North, here in Auburn, and I'll have entertain a motion to open the hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, is there a representative from Troy's here tonight? Okay. Would you identify yourself and
My
give
name's
us a...
Dave Troy. I live at 125 Oxford in the rear in Auburn here.
Okay. Give us a little background on what you'd like to do and what your plans are.
Adding a deck roughly 16 feet out by roughly 40 feet towards the parking lot area. You should have the blueprints up there. It's pretty specific.
These were new drawings that were sent out tonight because they were a little bit light the first time, but this is all the plans they have for additional deck space. Now, what is the deck going to be used for? Is it going to be just a meeting area? Is it going to be eating? Is it going to be, what's it going to be?
Mainly just for socializing, drinking out there, outdoor permits, things like that. Nothing, no food in the future.
Okay. And you've been, we have all the documents here for, you have met with different boards in the town, your Board of Health. Ms. Jacobson.
Do you want me to explain?
Yes, would
All
you
right,
please?
Thank you. Through the chair, just to let the audience who's listening know, so this is an application for an amendment of the, or an alteration of premises. It's a state application through the ABCC. It's required because their liquor license right now is internal to the footprint of the building. For them to serve alcohol on the addition of the deck, you have to amend the premises. So the ABCC requires a new layout of where the liquor license will cover. So there are a couple of different things that Troy's had to do for town permitting. On the board side, it's the extension of premises. Other town boards that they've met with and received approvals from include the planning board, the ZBA, and the conference. And that was for all the building-related, design-related, site plan, and conservation issues. And they received all their approvals from those boards as well. So this application tonight for the board is specific to the ABCC requirement that the board look at and approve of an alteration to the premises of where the lines for the liquor license.
Yes, Mr. Berthium.
So with the deck being built, are the hours of operation and the deck going to be the same as the hours of operation? I know obviously it's a bar, pub, so it's open until, wee hours of the morning. Would the deck be open for those hours?
Closing 10, 11 o'clock latest, if anything. Maybe occasionally, if something comes up, certain things, but it won't be loud, it won't be, crazy or anything like that.
So would there be an entertainment area of the deck?
No, we don't plan on any of that. Just a quiet place to relax and listen to the water go down the dam. That's about it.
Right, Through the chair, right now, because they hold a liquor license, they could have entertainment indoors, but for them to have entertainment outdoors, they would have to go through the process of coming to you for an outdoor entertainment license. And it's our understanding, as he just said, that that's not the intent to do that.
Yes, Mr. Carpenter.
Through to the town manager. I know one of the questions I asked was DCG, and you said it didn't go through DCG for this particular application because ABCC. What is the process that ABCC is going to do? I mean, we're not really the deciders per se.
Correct, but you are the licensing authority. So it is an unusual situation, as always, with the ABCC. They have their own license application. So DCG did acknowledge that this was needed. It was discussed. They went to DCG in November of 2018, and at that point, members of the Board of Health, I see Eileen was there, gave their input. They were recommended on what boards and commissions they needed to go to and what licenses and permits they needed, including this one. So at the DCG meeting back in November of 18, the applicant was told that they would have to come here. So the process now is the state requires the licensing authority of the liquor licenses to approve of an alteration of premises to extend the boundaries of where the liquor license goes. Once this licensing authority approves of that, it goes back to the ABCC, and then they amend their license.
Yes, please, Mr. Carpenter.
So my question is, I did notice the ZBA has not allowed outside entertainment, so that was something that's conditional on their approval, so just keep that in mind. The ZBA,
I'm sorry, they didn't what?
the ZBA, as a condition of their grant, prevents you from having outside entertainment. So that was their decision, and I certainly have every intention of upholding that. I know there's talk about, through you, Mr. Chairman, to the manager or to Mr. Troy, how are we going to keep people, are people going up to this facility? How are they getting the liquor? How are we controlling it? How are we preventing people from coming up the back way and the like?
It's all in the plans. There's one way in, one way out. There's emergency egress off to the side. It's all in the plans that we've been working on for 3 years.
So if you could just explain, so when the patrons come to the facility, they still go in the main entrance, correct?
If you're going out to the deck, there'd be like an emergency egress to get down, but you won't be able to get up.
So there's no access for patrons to come just through the deck to start? They have to go through the main entrance where they would be checked as you would for anyone serving
Have to go
out?
right by the bar, right in the main entrance to get out to it. There'd be an alarm on the gate also, so.
Mrs. Goodrich.
I just had one follow-up. How are you preventing them? You're saying it's an emergency access. There's stairs going down. I can see that from the plan. I've had 2 days to look at the plan, so I get you have 3 years. That's why I'm asking you. How are you preventing somebody from getting up there? If you're putting a little bar in, somebody's going to jump it, things of that nature.
Around your pool, that type of deck with emergency egress, to hit it, get out, it's going to be tall enough. I mean, I'm sure you could climb it if you wanted to climb it, but it's going to be roughly, I think they said 54 inches. Maybe even go tall or whatever.
Okay, thank you.
Mrs. Goodrich.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a couple questions. Am I correct in reading that there'll be 46 seats?
Approximately, yes.
Approximately 46 seats.
Roughly, it can be shortened in any.
Right, so that's roughly what I'm seeing. So to follow up on what you said, and to my fellow board members, certainly although there's not an entertainment license, 46 seats can generate some noise. The applicant has said that there wouldn't be, they would close it at a reasonable hour, be it 10 or 11. I would respectfully ask our board to be specific and set that as a condition. We've been pretty strict about noise levels on other applications. My next question is there any type of natural sound barrier or buffer in that back lot? Could you describe it, please?
It's all tree lined. It's totally dark back there. You can't see any houses. You can't see any lights through it when all the leaves are grown in and trees are grown.
Thank you, I appreciate that, but my question is more specific to noise. Do you feel that it's enough of a buffer for noise?
There's more noise coming down the street when cars and traveling over that bridge.
Okay, Mr. Berthium.
Speaking to that, I'm not sure if I'm reading it right. So we're putting a deck on the parking lot side, which is kind of the river side, is that correct? Okay. So are there residences above Troy's, or is that your own?
One.
There's one residence above, and then across that little river, there's residences above the market and the barber shop as well. Okay, so there are residences fairly close there, and I think, to your point, Mrs. Goodrich, I think that we, and I'm not trying to beat you up on times or anything like that, but it would be good for us to have a certain time that the deck area has to be closed, just so that if there is anything, we can refer back to that. The other question I have is, the deck will be, it's going to obviously take parking spaces that are there now. Not too many, okay. And when you do the deck, do you plan on enclosing under the deck? Will there be storage, like your trash cans or anything under
No,
the
there's
deck?
nothing, if anything, maybe an outdoor cooler would be all locked. If anything, you wouldn't be able to see it, it's all going to be blocked off.
Okay,
So something, so it looks good.
but, yeah, so, but it'll probably be closed in, so obviously a cooler wouldn't be exposed.
Right, exactly, yes.
Okay.
Mrs. Goodrich?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And again, it's more a comment to fellow board members. We've had issues raised in the past about noise levels and specifically about our liquor licenses and the board not being notified of noise levels. It is on the agenda, further on in the agenda when we address our policies, but certainly as one of the conditions, I would like to condition it that the board be notified of any noise complaints if the board is inclined to approve this. I would appreciate that.
Mr. Troy, have you going to have any additional employees because of the additional deck space?
Hope so, I plan to, yes. Somebody outside walking, keep an eye on things. I'll be there, I'm always there, so.
Okay, and each one of those will be tip certified? They will be
Absolutely.
properly trained with? Okay. Thank you. Has anybody got anything else? You were responsible to notify the abutters. We have the list of people that you notified. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak to this? Okay, being none, is there anything else from members of the board? Mr. Troy, have you got anything else? Entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, I'll entertain a motion. Mrs. Goodrich?
I'll make a motion that the board approve the license, hold on a second, approve the license of the alteration of premises with the conditions that the outdoor patio be closed at 10 p.m. and the board be notified if there are any complaints made to the town municipality or any town department regarding this outdoor patio.
And is there a second?
Second for discussion. Would you, this is a question to Mrs. Goodrich through the chair, would you be open to amending the motion to moving it to 11 p.m. with a last call at 10 or something to give them more time to move people off of the deck, or to, I mean, I've been in the area, I think the dam has enough of a noise barrier, might absorb some of the sound, so I think 11 might be a reasonable time with last call at 10 or something.
And that's, yes, and that's why, if I may, Mr. Chairman, that's why I made the motion to open this dialogue under discussion. Yes, I would agree to have, open till 11 with last call being served on the outdoor patio at 10, which more importantly to me would be to be sure that the board was notified of any complaints, because I would believe that would be the time that we would hear complaints after people are trying to sleep.
So that's in the form of an amendment to that motion?
I'm happy to amend it to 11 p.m. with last call being served at 10 p.m.
And the second?
I'll second.
Okay. Sharon, are you ready there? Can we have it back, please?
Sure. Approve the alteration of premises with the conditions that the outside patio be closed at 11 p.m. with the last call to be served at 10 p.m. and that the Board of Selectmen be informed of any complaints that come into town offices.
Is that correct?
Town offices or departments, just to,
Motion been made and seconded. Is there any, yes?
I just have one
Mr.
other
Carpenter.
request for an amendment to the motion. Would you consider including, attaching all applicable requirements of boards and commissions?
so to further amend it, failure to comply with any and all conditions shall invalidate the license and render it null and void, and with the conditions of the board to be placed on the license.
Sharon? And that's good with you, Mr. Liberty?
Yeah, I'll keep the second.
So it's a motion been made, amended, and seconded. Any further discussion? Being none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you, and good luck to you, Mr. Troy. We have now a petition by the Massachusetts Electric Company doing business as a National Grid for pole and wire locations, hearing at Brook Street. I'll entertain a motion to open the hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? We have a representative from National Grid.
Yes.
And would you identify yourself and explain a little bit about what we have here?
Yeah, Steve Susi from National Grid. Basically, I'm reading off here. National Grid proposes to install new pole 8-3, approximately 42 feet in northeast direction from existing pole 8, in order to provide service to a new home at 23 Brook Street. The new pole and anchor will be within the frontage of 23 Brook Street.
Okay, so this will be an addition, an additional pole. You're not replacing another one to feed a couple of different, you're putting this pole in just to feed this particular,
Yes, the customer wants to have a underground service, so we're putting this pole in, and then his service will be from pole 8-3.
is there any, Mrs. Goodrich?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the customer who's looking for this underground service, is that the resident at 23?
Yes.
Okay, so there's no concerns with abutters or neighbors that you've heard of?
No, and, we will put an anchor on pole 8, but that would be within the town right-of-way as well, and that land seems to be owned by the Auburn Sportsman's Club, so there's no homes on that. And everything else is within the frontage of 23. It's around, the new pole will be 40 feet plus from the lot line, so it's well within the frontage.
Is there anything else? Are there any residents here in the area that, regarding this petition? Okay. And have you got anything else?
No, I don't.
If there's nothing else from the board, I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Now I'll entertain a motion for the petition.
Make a motion that we approve the petition as submitted.
Second.
Any further discussion? Being none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you.
Now, the Auburn Webster Elks 2118, I'm sorry, retail liquor license amendment, alteration of the premises at 754 Southbridge Street. Can I get a motion to open the hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Is there a representative from the Elks here?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
If I can just make a disclosure, please?
Please.
So the disclosure would be that I am a longtime member of the Auburn Webster 218 Elks. I have no financial interest in this agenda item or the next agenda item, and I feel I can make a fair and impartial vote on this item.
Thank you, Mrs. Goodrich.
Thank you.
Okay, so the hearing's been open, and I will turn it over to you and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what your plans are.
Okay, my name is Bill Coakley. I'm the manager of the Auburn Webster Lodge of Elks, and we're asking for 2 different extensions of premises, one being the deck that is completely enclosed with access from the inside of the members' bar only, and one is a temporary fence that we're going to put up to have patrons be able to purchase alcohol at car shows and outside events.
Are there any board members have any questions? Mrs. Goodrich?
Thank you. Hi, Bill. Can you just talk to the board a little bit about all the steps you've taken to get here? Just, I mean, you've gone to DCG, you've spoken with planning, just
Yeah,
so we know the extent of what you've done.
I went up and I met with Rachel, and she told me the steps and was very helpful in planning out how I got here today. So basically, I went to the planning board, and they had concerns about the number of parking spaces, and we addressed that, and I think they were very satisfied with the results of the Graves plot plan, which we are going forward with. We are going to also repave the entire parking lot, and then when we put up this corral type fencing, we still are within the required parking spaces needed for the events and the numbers of people. And then, now we're coming to this board asking for permission, to follow it on to the ABCC.
Yes, Mrs. Goodrich?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, Bill, the first one you talked about, which is right outside the members' lounge, that's an enclosed area that is used mainly by members. Say they want to go outside and have a cigarette and a drink. They can only access that from the members' lounge, not from upstairs, not from the other room, but just from the members' lounge?
That's correct.
Okay. And can you talk to, I know that that the lodge has quite a few TIPS certified members who monitor things. Can you talk on the night of a car show, roughly how many TIPS certified members you have there?
Well, we have several members that are tip certified that are not employees of the lodge because they're bartenders other places, or they're board members, or they're tip certified. All the employees that we have, and we have a bartender out in the outside that will be tip certified because we're gonna dispense beer and soda and bottled water outside, and all the bartenders inside are certified as well.
And just one last thing, if I may,
Yes,
Mr. Chairman.
please.
And Bill, just because I'm a longtime member, I know that there are previous board members on there. You've been doing this car show and this outdoor service right outside of the lounge, but it's been your longtime belief that because you were a private club, that you didn't need that license, and once it was brought to your attention, you immediately contacted the office?
Exactly. We went through those steps once we got a letter from the town manager, and, then we found that we were in violation, and we came forward. I've been the manager for 38 years at this facility, and we have gone forth prior to this and had done several functions without incident, and we've never had a complaint about noise or about, rude behavior or anything like that, so.
Mr. Berthew?
So the corral that we're talking about, is that the 60-foot by 65-foot by 60-foot?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so that is going to have a bar that's up near the building that will be serving, and then everyone will have to stay in that corral area. If they're gonna have a drink, they can't take it out. You know, if they, a car show is obviously so people can go look at cars that are gonna be parked all along the parking lot. So, and I noticed you have a pavilion already set up there, so it doesn't, the corral won't, people won't have access to go sit at a picnic table with a drink under the pavilion. They have to stay within the corral area. Is that right?
That is not a pavilion, that's just a chicken barbecue pit.
Oh, that's a
Okay,
pit.
Okay, and we are intending to set up tables and chairs inside the corral for people, and we also sell hamburgers and hot dogs, and we have outside bathroom facilities right in that corral that we had recently purchased through renovation. We needed them, and we kept them.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Carpenter?
So just on the operation, how do you determine someone is over 21? Do you use bands? Who's sitting in there serving things? I'm assuming car shows, families are going. Are people with children going to be going into this area? And how do you control that?
The bartender that is outside in that penned-in area will be responsible for, checking IDs as they would if they were inside, and therefore, we would use the same due diligence in making sure that, everybody was of age, and we will have an attendant at the entrance and exit, because it's going to be the same spot, and we plan to have signs put up, no alcohol beyond this point, and we'll, obviously address it, just when they're trying to leave.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Cody, I have a little concern about the temporary, temporary fence or temporary marking for that. What do you plan to use for marking off that area that you're going to use, that 3,900 square feet?
The large pen area?
Yes.
What we were planning to do is use the same corral-type things that they'd use in an airport, which were, the single bands, as when they're trying to direct people in an airport, as to, how you'd go to get to the front desk, and use those, and they have them that are double-banded, okay, and they cover a 13-foot. But then again, we have probably 25 volunteers out there, so there's a lot of eyes on the area, and then we plan to take that down after we're not using that area.
Okay. That was my only concern, because, it's when you talk the game, the fence goes up, and yeah, we're going to work it. But then after a little while, then that temporary fence, well, I don't think we need it, because it's going to be in this area only. Is that going to be one of your responsibilities, to make sure that that area is cordoned off?
That's what we have planned to do, and that's what, to, keep everybody in that one area.
Great. Thank you very much. Is there any other questions? Have you got anything else, Mr. Coakley? No. Okay. I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
So moved. Second.
Is there any further discussion? The hearing is closed. Now I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the alteration to premises.
I'll second it for discussion. Something that I just thought of, because we just went through the same thing with Troy's, is do we need to put a time frame that they can't, or they should not serve liquor after 10 outside, and with last call being at 10 and closed by 11? Kind of the same thing we just did with Troy's. I don't think it's going to matter for the car show, because it's probably in the afternoons, but
Yeah, and if I may, Mr. Chairman, I was jumping ahead at the next one for the outdoor entertainment license, looking at that dusk, but I'm happy to amend the motion to put the same conditions on it, although I doubt they would need it that late. Put the same conditions that it be until 11 PM with a last call for outdoors at 10 PM.
I'll second that.
Okay. Sharon? Is there any further discussion? Yes, Mr. Carpenter?
I just have a question, because we did say that, or the request was that we have any notification being put on the license of any noise complaints that the board received that. That wasn't part of the amendment, so I just wanted to bring that up if we want to be...
I'm happy to put it on this one as well. It was my intention to require it on the outdoor entertainment, but with the condition that the board be notified of any noise complaints coming from this, any noise complaints brought to the attention of the town or a town department.
Second to that amendment.
Second it.
Can we get the motion, Sharon, please?
Approve the alteration of premises with the condition that the serving of alcohol be open until 11 PM, with last call to be served at 10 PM, and with the conditions that any noise complaints that the board be notified that come into any town departments or boards or offices.
Is that satisfactory?
Yeah, I did the amendments, so.
I want to be sure that you were satisfied with the motion, and you're satisfied? Okay, so the motion's been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Being none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you for coming in, Mr. Coakley. Thank you. And we are going to go with the outdoor entertainment licenses now. And this is for the Elks, 2118 at 754 Southbridge Street, and I'll entertain a motion to open the hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. Mr. Coakley, what are your plans?
Well, at the car shows and all that, we have a DJ outside, and he plays, on occasion, we've had a band. We're not looking for an all-night. When I went to the planning board and we discussed this, and I said, I've been to this board before, not this particular one, but the Board of Selectmen have already, in the past, given me an outside entertainment license. It was several years ago. What we're looking for is like a dawn to dusk license. We don't want, bands playing out there at 9, 10 o'clock at night. Once it gets dark, we, close down the DJ outside, and, because it's what works for us.
Is there any questions, comments? Mrs. Goodrich?
Bill, is there the natural tree barrier along the left and the right side, behind where a DJ would set up? Is it the natural tree barrier there?
There is, and there's also 7 acres of land back there before you get over to like the Hampton Inn, and there are, all trees on that side. And basically, the DJ plays and he's playing towards Southbridge Street, so he's not playing he's playing towards the building in the backyard.
Mr. Berthium?
Yeah, could you give us, because I don't want to put something in dawn to dusk, because that obviously leaves too much of a leeway. Could just let me know, or can we put a time like 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. or 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.? Because if you put dusk, I mean, that leaves too much to people's discretion. So what do you think would work for you guys?
No later than 9 p.m.
No later than 9, okay. So like 8 a.m. to 9 PM.
This is not an everyday event. This
No.
is very sparse. I mean, we only do this for a short period. Like the car shows run May to September.
And right now, the application is saying from 10 a.m. to dusk. So,
10 a.m., so 10 a.m. to, instead of dusk, I'd prefer to have it at, say, 9 p.m., if that,
Mrs. Goodrich?
I'll just comment on his, that, that also keeps us consistent with what we've asked for the outdoor entertainment licenses, 9 PM.
okay. Thank you.
Is there any further comments? Now, I did neglect to ask if there were any neighbors that, in the area, is there anybody here to speak on the entertainment license? Okay, is there any further questions from the board? Mr. Coakley, have you got anything else? No. Okay, I'll ask for motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I'll entertain a motion for the outdoor entertainment license for the Elks.
I'll make a motion to approve the license, provided that all applicable requirements of the state and town and any of its departments, boards, and commissions have been fulfilled. Said license is subject to all the conditions stated upon it. Failure to comply with any and all conditions shall invalidate the license and render it null and void, and with the conditions of the DCG to be placed on the license, and to add that the hours for the license would be from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. And I think that was all we had. And that the board be notified if there's any complaints, the board or town offices, is that what you're saying, of any complaints pertaining to the license.
Motion is made. Is there a second?
Second.
Sharon, have you got that? Okay. Is there any questions? Okay. Motion been made and seconded. Being no discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Good luck, Mr. Coakley, and thank you for coming in. Okay. I would like to move up item...
I think, Kim, just so you know, there's someone here for the license.
Oh, okay. Okay, no communications here, so we're going to go to item 7A, seasonal open-air license on town property for the Troop 101 Boy Scouts. That's the annual yard sale at the Auburn Public Library. Is there a representative? Would you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you're going to do?
My name is Chris Sylvester, and I'm affiliated with Troop 101 and PAC 101. Looking to get a permit to have a yard sale on Memorial Day weekend to support the troops.
Is there any questions from the board?
I would just say they always do it every year. They always clean up, and they always leave it in good shape, so I would be in favor of supporting it.
I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion that we approve the license.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And can we have a motion?
I would make a motion that we approve the waiver of the application fee.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Okay, and now for Troop 101. It's an open-air license on town property. It's a bottle and can drive at the fire station, and that'll be on April 25th this year, 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. We have the application here. We also have approval from the fire chief, as they have done before. Is there any questions, comments? Have you got anything?
No, just appreciate the opportunity to do these items with these boys.
Make a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve the license.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And is there a motion?
I make a motion that we approve the waiver of the application fee.
Second.
Okay, motion been made and seconded to waive the fees. Any discussion? Being none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you very much for coming in, and good luck.
Thank you, appreciate it.
All right, the next we have is item 7C, the Board of Registrar's certification of request by petition for ballot question to be placed on the May 19, 2020 annual town election ballot.
Town clerk is here, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, thank you. Has anybody got any questions regarding this? Comments?
Seems everything's in order.
Okay. Is there a motion?
I would make a motion that this question be placed on the May 19th, 2020 annual town election ballot as outlined in our agenda item.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Any questions? Being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Okay, let's see what else we have here. I guess we'll continue on. We have the zoning.
There's people here for every
Okay. Next, we have 7D, the zoning bylaw amendments for the May 5th, 2020 annual town meeting warrant. And we have a enclosed letter from the town planner. And has anybody got any questions?
I just have one question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Carpenter.
Through you to the town manager. I know there was a meeting held for town meeting members, and at that meeting it was stated that there'd be another. I didn't see any notification. Is there going to be another one? I know they were working on some edits.
Through the chair, I'm going to refer to the town planner, because I believe that would happen after a planning board meeting if there were changes to the text, but
Correct. There's going to be a meeting regarding the map. All abutters and property owners have been notified on March 16th. And there'll be a meeting on March 30th. We'll notify all town meeting members of that meeting for March 30th. We'll probably send out a notification for the 30th meeting the next week or so.
Excuse me, Adam, the March 16th meeting you were talking about will be what?
Be solely on the zoning map proposal. And we've we sent notification to all abutters and property owners of that meeting.
Okay, and that meeting will be held here at Town Hall.
Correct.
Does anybody got any further questions? Okay. Well, we need to vote this so we can transmit the proposed zoning bylaw amendments back to the planning board for their public hearings. Is there a motion?
Make a motion that we transmit these articles to the planning board for the required public meeting. Second.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? Being none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you, and thank you, Adam.
Thank you.
Through the chair, if I can, Jim.
Yes,
I
please.
just want to acknowledge and thank all the members of the Development and Special Services Department who are here tonight, just in case there were questions. You know, the process will follow through, as we always do, through the planning board and the hearings, but I want to thank them all for coming tonight, just in case the board members had any issues. So, thank you all.
Okay. Let's see. I guess then we'll just continue on. Request by the school department to utilize the Special Education Stabilization Fund in the amount of $81,700.36. Ms. Jacobson? Mr. Kazanovich?
So I believe the school committee has already taken a vote on this matter, and Cecilia Wisbicki, who is a school business manager, is here to answer any questions you may have relative to this special reserve account that was established a few years ago and is in place to meet some extraordinary and unforeseen special ed expenses that arose not only for this fiscal year, but there's some identified costs that will impact potentially this reserve account for the upcoming fiscal year as well.
Would you care to come up and join us up here, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
It's fine.
Thank you for coming in.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I was involved in that meeting when we did put that account together, and I think it was definitely a worthwhile thing to be doing. Maybe you can explain a little bit about what the funds are going to be for in this particular case?
Okay, so the request before you is in the amount of $81,700.36, which is needed to offset the FY 2020 school budget. The costs are necessary to address student safety concerns that have required extended evaluations from out-of-district providers for several students. And due to confidentiality, I'm not allowed to go more into that. These costs were unanticipated and unbudgeted for the FY 2020 budget and are exactly the type of expenses that the SPED Stabilization Fund was established to address. In FY 2018, the school department was able to deposit $325,540.04, and then in FY 2019 added another $25,000, bringing the total in this account to $351,540.04 at the present time. These savings were as a result of several of anticipated and budgeted placements that we had budgeted for in those fiscal years that didn't end up coming to fruition. So we were able to set aside these funds for future unexpected needs, which was the basis for setting this up to begin with. Dr. Burnell and Dr. Chamberlain have previously met with Town Manager Jacobson and CFO Kasanovitz, who are aware of and in support of the use of these funds. The school committee unanimously approved the use of the $81,700.36 at their February 26th school committee meeting. And so I am seeking your approval to utilize these funds.
Now, do you foresee any other expenses coming forward that you would need out of the stabilization account?
Right now, this $81,000 should be sufficient. However, you never know. We've been trying very cautiously to try to reserve as much money as we can. If there's any monies left over, we've been trying to put that towards that to offset these unanticipated costs. In the coming fiscal year 21, we might have some offsets that we might need to for these students. Sometimes the thing is these students have had to go out on extended evaluations, so we weren't planning for them, and that's basically, so this $81,000 is to cover for that in this fiscal year. But there could be potentially, as Dr. Burnell discussed with you, in 21 as well, so.
So if I do my math correctly and just round numbers, we have approximately $270,000 left in that account? There is. Okay, and you're not sure for next year about what the costs are going to be? You can't tell from year to year?
And if something did happen that we didn't need to use funds, or there were some other placements that if a student was able to come back into the programming at Auburn Public Schools, we would be able to maybe take some of those funds at the end of the year and put them back, into the stabilization. So we've been very cautious in trying to be conservative about things and trying to put as much money aside as possible, because we really like to have that buffer there. It helps us as well as the town, so.
That was going to be one of my comments for tonight, that if, there's going to be special ed needs that are going to be unanticipated, that the school department would be well aware of, this may come again, and we don't want to spend this down to a point where we can't put any more into it, and then you'll have to come back to another spot to receive some money. So that's what my comment was, that the school department makes sure they keep an eye on that they maintain enough, and as you say, a cushion, so that you don't fall into arrears with that.
We were very pleased being able to put that amount of money, the $351,000 that we have set aside in the account. So we were pleased with that, and we're reluctant to use the money, but the budget, we just didn't budget for it, and it's something that happened mid-year. So.
Mr. Berthium.
So a couple of questions. The first, the $81,700 is a pretty substantial amount of money. I assume that's going, according to what you're saying, to students that are being sent out of district for special requirements. So the those students that are getting sent out, some of them may be graduating, some of them may be with us again next year. So are those students taken into consideration with the new budget that's being brought forward from the school department as a result of this? Or is this something that we don't anticipate, that it's a multi-year thing for these students? And then my question is twofold. The second is that, is it strictly for like out of district for the remainder of this year? Or is any portion of this 81,700 going toward a program that we're developing that might be able to handle situations for the future?
The 81,000 is strictly for out-of-district placement. The students that are going out, it's for an extended evaluation period. We're hopeful that potentially they might be able to come back to us next year. We're not sure, but when we do our budgeting, we plan for all of the students that we basically have out at the current time, or anybody that is kind of looking like they potentially could be on our radar. We try to move those forward. So we've tried to strategically budget for the people that we believe will be going out next year or staying out. But there are some students that might be aging out, as you said. So there might be some variances there too. At no point when we established the sped stabilization fund, it was strictly for out-of-district tuition and transportation. It would not be used in any form to start a program within house. That we would have to find other funding to do that. So.
Novitz, Jacobson, anything? Okay. She's come here because it was part of the requirements to any money to be coming out of this account for special ed needs. We were to be notified, and we are to approve it. So I'll entertain a motion.
I actually have one question.
Oh, okay, Mr. Carpenter?
Through the chair to the town accountant. Medicaid receipts, they always seem to be fairly flat. When we have these unanticipated expenses, is there any hope that the state will adjust what they give us? It seems like it's a set amount that we get almost every year. It does fluctuate here or there, but it doesn't seem to keep pace with certainly the needs that the town recognizes.
So that's a great question, and I think we base our level of Medicaid receipts based upon prior actual receipts that come in. These are qualifying expenses that have to be requested and are reimbursed. In some cases, in most cases, they exceed the amount that is appropriated. There is an occasional year where it may come in shy, but in most cases, it's because there's a delay in the reimbursement. Although we are quite concerned about the federal budget that was just released that indicated that the states could suffer a cutback in Medicare and Medicaid reimbursements. To that extent, we are concerned, and we may not meet our benchmark, or some expenses may not qualify. It's too early to say, but if that is the case, we may have to follow up with an amendment to either peel back some of those funds that we got before if they're not eligible, or a certain percentage of that is no longer eligible for reimbursement. From what I hear, Massachusetts cut in Medicaid receipts exceeds $1 billion. So it's definitely, if that moves forward, it's definitely going to have an impact not only on these receipts, it could have an impact on our ambulance receipts where we get a reimbursement. But it just bears watching its time. We just don't know what direction that's going to go in.
Thank you.
Is there anything else? Mr. Berthium?
I'll make a, if there's nothing else, I'll make a motion that we vote to approve the utilization, to utilize the funding from the Special Education Stabilization Fund in the amount of $81,700.36.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. And Cecilia, thank you so much for coming in tonight. Appreciate that. Okay, Vote on acceptance of Housing and Urban Development, the HUD 2020 Capital Fund Program Formula Grant to carry out work activities identified in the Public Housing Authority's 5-year capital action plan. Ms. Jacobson, have you got anything to get started with this, or we'll turn this over to?
Yeah, I think at this point, to turn it over to the representatives who are here from the Auburn Housing Authority. This is an item that they do come before the board on an annual basis, but we've asked them to come in and explain to you what it is they're looking for.
Okay. Yeah, would you care to, instead of standing over there, come over and sit down and join us? Sure. Make it a little bit easier for you. Ms. Jacobson says this comes to us every year, and just to notify us of what your capital plans are. However, will you introduce yourselves and explain a little bit about what you have in front of us tonight?
My name is Betty Basinskis. The director is ill with bronchitis, so she sent me in her place, in case you have any questions.
My name is Wayne Page. I am the chairman of the Housing Committee.
Just as a brief summary, what are your plans for the 5 years?
Well, as you can see by what we gave you, it begins in 2018, and then each year is spelled out what we're going to do with the funds that we will use that particular year. Like in 2020, we have bathroom modernization, we have floor replacement, working on parking lots, hot water heaters, which is Auburn's water tends to burn through our water heaters. Security cameras, more security cameras, and it goes on each year up until 2022.
So 2018 and 2019, there is a significant number of projects. Have they been completed?
Yes.
They have all been completed?
Yep.
And so have you started into the 2020 list already, or is that something that will start in the good weather?
That will start in the good weather.
Okay.
Definitely.
We got any questions? Yes, Mr. Carpenter.
Just a general question, because we approve these type of things for boards and commissions all the time. Is there any auditing procedure that, I mean, this is federal money coming through you. How, we're not checking the bathroom fixtures as a town, so who is ultimately responsible for, you generate a plan, they fund you a certain percentage based on your submission? Do they come in and verify this and all that good stuff?
They do. Laurie Brennan, our executive director, is the one who would be responsible for it. HUD comes in once a year and audits, and they do look at the buildings, they look at all the information we give them, so we have both HUD and the state coming in once a year.
Yeah, I just want to be clear. We're not, the town, by taking this action, is not responsible for non-performance or substandard performance, which I don't believe would happen anyways, but I'm just, as a caution to anybody, that we're just doing our usual
signing, voting.
It's required that the town signs, so.
Yeah, Mr. Berthium.
So these projects, like putting in the new hot water heaters and things like that, are we utilizing town? Like, I know we have the town construction people now that come in and have done wonderful things to help the town hall, the fire station, that type of thing. Are we utilizing that type of department? And being the budgets that we have, is that something that we could leverage to get more help for that department, but let that department do some of these projects so that the town might be able to hire additional people that could help with I'll use Jimmy's name, help Jimmy with that stuff, and, we would save cost on labor by having our own town people do that, but it would also substantiate us having extra people on staff.
Through the chair, my understanding is that these funds go directly to the Housing Authority, so it's a separate entity legally from the town. So we don't do projects with our employees on any facilities that the town doesn't own or operate. So we don't own or operate any of the Housing Authority properties. That's completely separate. So the funds go to them, they control the funds by just kind of a strange Mass General Law, or under Mass General Law. All the funds go from HUD to the Housing Authority, but yet under Chapter 121B, Section 11K, it requires BOS approval. So to Mr. Carpenter's point, you have to approve of it, but yet you have no oversight of it. And therefore, my understanding is also no ability to either use the funds, or they wouldn't be directed through us, where we would then use them to put on additional staff to do the work, because they're separate entities. It's a good question, but I don't think legally we could do that.
Okay. And just a question, just for our viewing audience, how do you determine your capital plan? Is it the Housing Authority of Auburn that determines that, or do you get guidance from the federal and local, state governments?
All of the above. But it's the Housing Authority Director who sees what projects are going to be needing to be done, and then she makes a list, and they go through it, see what we can fund.
Okay, thank you.
Through
Ms.
the chair,
Jackson,
I just
please.
only had one question, just for clarification. So it seems like the Housing Authority was here maybe in the fall for a vote of the Board of Selectmen. So this is not a new 5-year plan, this is a revision of the 5-year plan.
Yes.
So what exactly was revised from the time the board voted on it in the fall to now?
I'm not certain which areas were revised, if any. We just have to submit it again.
Okay, I guess the reason I asked is because I know originally we had the board approve the original submission. It's similar to the town, we do, they do a 5-year plan, we do a 5-year plan, but this one appeared to be a revision of a plan, not the original. So that's why I was wondering what the change is from what the board voted on in the fall to what they're being asked to vote on tonight.
Go ahead, sorry.
I'm not certain what the exact changes were, if there were any. I'm just not sure. Laurie would know that.
It was just basically brought up that we had to redo it and have a vote from the Board of Selectmen.
Consistency. It seems like the change is done here. If I may, through the chair.
Yes, please.
There seems to be some consistency between 18, 20, 21, 22. The Auburn Housing Authority and the authority-wide, they're all the same for each year. It looks like there was a fluctuation in 2019 with a authority-wide. The previous year and the subsequent years are all 25, and this is 46, so I don't know if the change is there. But while I have the mic, do you know if there's a limit on the amount of capital that is eligible from the federal government on an annual basis, or is it formula-driven, or?
I don't know the answer to that. I don't know.
I would say it would be formula.
Because the amounts seem to be consistent every year. In the aggregate, I just don't know if there's a cap, and whether or not that's the cap based upon the annual funding, or whether or not it's done by number of units, and there's a housing formula.
Yeah, it's done by formula. You're right.
And it looks like here that it was authority-wide in 2019. There is no general description, but under operations, your 1406 account, I guess, costs associated with operating the housing authority. So there may have been additional costs that particular year for operations, not so much for a capital project, but for operations itself.
Yes.
maybe for snow removal, for salting, maybe
Yes.
for lawn cutting because of a lot more grass cutting. I don't know, but that could very well be, and that's what I'm seeing here. Is there any further questions? Being none.
I'll make a motion, we approve the Capital Fund Program Formula Grant to carry out work activities identified in the Public Housing Authority's 5-year capital action plan, with the understanding we have no oversight, that this is a matter of bureaucratic necessity.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Is there any further discussion? Being none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
3 copies.
And who has to sign that? That has to be signed by,
Someone, it just says someone from the town.
oh,
And it just needs the town.
okay.
Chairman?
Yes, please.
If I may, before we move on, it has nothing to do with the action we just took, but it is related to this item. I remember taking a vote on this previously and having discussion with my frustration as to us voting on something that we have no oversight, no authority, no input. And my recollection was, and I could be wrong, that I had made a motion at the time that we send a letter to our legislative body expressing our concern with this Mass General Law. If that wasn't the case, then I would like to make a motion that we send a letter to our legislative body with our concern that, we are taking action on something that we have no authority, no input, no oversight, and I don't feel it belongs under this body.
Is there a second? Okay, so you want to send a letter to our legislators regarding this?
Mass General Law 121B.
Okay. And it's been seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. So when that letter is drafted, then we will sign that and move that along. And thank you both again for coming in tonight.
And Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to...
Yes, please.
To wait until, hold it till the next meeting so that board members can review the letter and be comfortable with what it says. But that's the gist of it. We're expected annually per Mass General Law to take action on something that we're basically rubber stamping, and maybe the legislature needs to look to somewhere else that would have more oversight than us.
Ms. Jacobson, is that something that we can do, is to draft a letter? Sure. And have it back for our next meeting so that we can review it? And if everybody agrees with them, we can all sign it and just put a little bit more push behind it. Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Goodrich. Okay, under 7G, we have gift acceptances tonight from Joanne Johnson, $30, to purchase pizza for the library staff in appreciation of efforts for children during school vacation week.
Motion to accept with gratitude.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I think I'm going down for pizza. We have no proclamations or recognitions in front of us tonight. Next, we have review and vote on updated board selectmen policies per recommendation of the policy subcommittee, and enclose our recommendations of the subcommittee. You've all had a chance to look through them, and it's open for discussion for tonight. Yes, Mr. LaLiberty.
Mr. Chairman, first I just wanted to thank the subcommittee for putting in the time to go through the policies and make any recommendations for changes, because after reviewing them myself, I think that was necessary. So thank you to the subcommittee for taking the time. I do have a question for the subcommittee on the change to the liquor license policy, Section B, subsection 3, looks like.
Let's see. Liquor license policy, say it again.
That would be Section B applies to retail package store licenses, and then subsection 3, consumption on premises prohibited.
Do you have a page on that?
Oh, yeah, it's page 9. Oh, are we all?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So section B applies to,
So section B, and it's,
It's on the consumption on premises.
Okay.
Yep. My question is just, wine tasting is in parentheses there, so I was just looking for clarification if that would apply to beer and cider as well, or if it strictly applies to wine.
we could change it to just sample tastings.
yeah, I think we can bring that back to, well, we don't even have to bring
Sure.
it back. If it's something that the board is comfortable with, we can do that. Okay, if that be the case, you'd make a motion?
I'll make a motion to, I guess, amend, would it be amend our policy, liquor license policy,
Just that section.
just section B, yeah, up subsection 3 to read, no alcoholic beverages shall be sold to be consumed on the premises except for sample tastings.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. You have another one, Mr. Liberty?
Yes. My second question is also, actually, it's the page before this, subsection 41.
Okay.
Coin-operated.
Right, it applies to the coin-operated automatic amusement machines. Just for clarification again, would this apply to the coin-operated rides at the Auburn Mall? How are we differentiating those from any other amusement machines that may be used? I guess I was just confused there.
Mrs. Goodrich?
Thank you. So this is, this particular section falls under people who have liquor licenses.
Okay.
But we also had lengthy conversation because of a license application we had for coin-operated at the mall, that the subcommittee is recommending developing a policy with that same language that shall require machines to be monitored by on-site personnel. But as a rule, because they're serving alcohol, there is on-site personnel there, but we just wanted to be consistent.
That makes sense. All right, thank you. That was all I had.
Yeah, Mr. Berthium?
Can we go back to the original Section B, Subchapter C, 3? I was going to put my hand up and then the vote went through, but...
Sorry, I didn't see it.
No, that's okay. It happened simultaneously, so it's not an issue. But my question is, so sample tasting is typically something that a vendor comes to like a liquor store, and, they may give out little, very small samples of what they have. So the fact that it says no alcoholic beverages shall be sold to be consumed, it's not typically sold to be consumed. So I think it should just read, no alcoholic beverages shall be consumed on the premises except for sample tasting. Are we in agreement with that?
Yes, I just think that part was directly from the ABCC regulations, but we can certainly change it. The intent is there. The intent is there, that you're not supposed to, in a retail package store,
Sit there and open up.
pay for your liquor and then crack open a
Right.
can of beer.
So, Mr. Berthium, you want to do no alcoholic beverages shall be consumed on the premises except for sample tasting? Is that what you're saying?
But now that Mrs. Goodrich is saying, I just wonder if it should be, no alcoholic beverages shall be sold and consumed on the premises. In other words, not to be consumed, but shall be sold and consumed on the premises, period. Then another one, no alcoholic beverages shall be consumed on the premises except for sample tasting.
Sure. And I can, rather than taking separate motions for all of this, we can clean this all up and have a final draft, if, you know, if
That's great, we can do that
the
then.
board is in agreement with that.
Thank you.
Is there anything else members have?
On the liquor license? Are we just, we're just on the liquor license right now, correct?
Did anybody else have anything else on any one of the other policies?
Well, I just wanted to point out, under the liquor license policy, because there were some inconsistencies with times with the hours, so we just wanted to add, and actually Sharon put it down there just for discussion, but we would include it at the beginning of the introduction. But hours of operation shall be consistent with the Alcoholic Beverages Control Commission and Massachusetts general law. Because, you know, the law could change this year, and they could say, you know, okay, you can start selling beer on Sunday at 9 a.m., and we would have to amend our policy, and this just keeps it a little cleaner that we're following the hours consistent with the ABCC and Mass General Law. So if there are no issues with that, we can move forward with that. Any changes were made in red, so I think that is it. On the liquor license policies. So, I don't know which one you members want to move on to next. We put the different policies in. Right now, I'm looking at rules and procedures of Board of Selectmen. There were just some minor changes. 1.410 regular meetings, rather than saying the board shall meet in the Auburn High School presentation room. We don't know if that room will be available, and we don't even know if, you know, in perpetuity we'll be meeting at the high school, so we just want to say the board will meet prior to special town, the board will meet if needed prior to special and annual town meetings. Bun, that's it. No issues with that? So if you want to jump in and take any of these two, you're
Okay.
welcome.
All right. Under the Code of Conduct, we've been through this back some time ago, and we are to reaffirm it annually following each year's organizational meeting. In page 3 of that, under relations with members of the public, we added a line at the very end, just prior to the conclusion. Policies are determined and set by the Board of Selectmen by majority vote. All Board of Selectmen members shall abide by the policies following their acceptance. So we are to affirm them every year after the organizational meeting, and then all of our policies, like I say, were determined by the board by majority vote, and all selectmen members shall abide by the policies following their acceptance. Mr. Carpenter.
I guess, I, as everybody knows, have a problem with the policy to begin with. And second of all, I don't think this is needed. I won't support the amendment. And abiding by a process is very different than being hectored to sign it when someone has said or has demonstrated they are not going to as a protest. So I would just raise that to all board members' attention, that each and every one of us is elected. We do this job differently. And while I'm always happy to, in general, follow what is going on, I'm never going to tell a member of the public to call somebody else. Because frankly, we get elected so that they can talk to us. That's our job. And that's how we can generate policy ideas, That's how we, as leaders of the community, are expected, I believe, by the voters, to be open when we're out in the community or even available by phone. So I'm not going to encourage them to call someone else because they've called me. I'm going to get their complaint, and I will forward that to the appropriate person.
And I think the interpretation that you see here is wrong, because I think that the selectmen, as this board, determined this code of conduct, and we're not trying to quiet anybody. We're not trying to say you can't talk to anybody, but there is a method of doing it, a chain of command, if you will, that, so any questions, comments, you can talk to anybody you want. If the questions are required, then it should go through the town manager prior to department heads, employees, and what have you. And I think that's what we're saying here. We're not saying that you can't talk to anybody. It's just that if somebody does talk about it, you have questions, please forward it to the town manager so that she can approach whoever department heads or whoever it is that you spoke with, and the whole board can receive that information, so that it's not just one person asking the question where somebody else may call and ask the same question, and now we're duplicating our effort. We don't want to do that. Mrs. Goodrich.
Thank you. So, we had papers kind of spread all over the place, but looking at what we have under discussion right now, specifically in red under the Code of Conduct, policies are determined and set by the Board of Selectmen by majority vote. All Board of Selectmen members shall abide by policies and follow their acceptance. I don't believe that this belongs specifically in this policy. Maybe move it over to the rules and procedures of the Board of Selectmen, because it applies to all policies adopted by the Board of Selectmen instead of singling out one policy. That's my thought for tonight, looking while we're discussing it. Because it puts it specifically to the Code of Conduct policy, and it really, the intent is that it applies to all policies voted and adopted by. Does that make sense?
I
So it would be under
do
this one
agree with
here.
that. However, the statement goes along that policies in total are determined and set by the Board of Selectmen by majority vote. All Board of Selectmen members shall abide by the policies following their acceptance. So
But it might be better served under Section 100 is all I'm saying.
I agree, but again, all members should abide by the policies by majority vote. So regardless if it's a 4-1, 3-2, it's still all members should abide by the policies.
Absolutely, I'm not looking to change the language. I'm just
Thank you.
looking to change the placement of where it's going in the book, so that it's not singling out one policy, it's addressing all policies, and I feel it should go under Section 100.
I would support that.
So we've done that one, and the liquor license.
Now we go to outdoor entertainment. Again, we spoke about this tonight. The Board of Selectmen shall be notified of any complaints received by any municipal or town office. So that keeps us in the loop of anything, so that it doesn't just go to a report and dies in a file. We get, because we are the licensing authority. And I believe that's an asset for these policies to amend this.
And this discussion came about not to single out anyone, but we learned at a hearing that we had been told previously that there were no complaints, and then we learned that there were, so this just kind of makes a formal request that if these complaints come in, that, obviously through the town manager's office to us, these complaints come to the board. Are there any concerns with that language? Thank you.
Now, we go to policy, Section 400, policy to issue proclamations and letters. Under the duties of the Board of Selectmen, letters of appreciation, congratulations, and support will be signed by the chairman of the board or his/her designee. So it doesn't leave it to one person if they're not available, so that, the person next in line or whoever they determine, there will be a signature by a member of the Board of Selectmen.
And we had that issue arise recently, and thank you, Mr. Liberty, for signing on behalf of the board. So does anybody have any concerns with that?
Okay, the next, let's see, procedure to name infrastructure and facilities. Ms. Goodrich?
Just, we had a discussion, and a lot of times these are brought before the board either at a sensitive time or a time that we haven't had an opportunity to develop a strong policy. So the subcommittee would like to, I'll just read it. The subcommittee recognizes that the naming of an infrastructure is a significant action that lasts in perpetuity. The subcommittee would recommend searching other towns' policies to develop an appropriate criteria for the naming of the infrastructure.
And part of the discussion of that was that we have buildings in town that could be named, buildings that have been suggested to be named, and eventually there's going to be enough people around it. And there are significant people, volunteers, and what have you, of the town residents that have taken part in the town, and they have a building or something named after them. And if we continue on and we don't have any sort of a policy for it, we may start to be naming homes. We'll run out of buildings to name, run out of objects to name, and this is some of the things we want to take a look at to be sure that recognition is given. However, we have to identify how that recognition will be given, and we should look into other policies to determine how that's going to happen.
So I had used the example in our subcommittee meeting room to not, single out anyone in the town of Auburn, but similar to the state recently when, as they should have, naming something for Officer Ron Tarantino, and you have to work closely with Mass DOT on state roads and bridges. And what we learned was there's very, very little left to name. That's just the bottom line. And there was that small bridge right there. That's all that was left for state road or bridge or whatever to name it. So, so it is significant, and we want to be sure that we're creating a policy that, instead of naming a whole building, naming a room or something, so that in the event that
So more research, basically, more research has got to be done on this.
that's what we're asking for the subcommittee to continue that.
If there's any suggestions, opinions, love to hear them and see if we can put it together and have some sort of a policy for this.
And so the last one, I believe, is some suggestions from, that came from Mr. LaLiberty, and we're obviously on the same page, because a lot of us, it was just really, and what we're really trying to do here is clean up our policies, review them all and clean up their policies. So the first one is taken care of, and...
If I could just ask.
Mr. Carpenter.
I wasn't really done with section 400.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's
Can we
okay.
go back to that?
I wasn't asked for an opinion, and personally for me, I don't feel we should be naming anything for anybody. I think our town buildings should always be our town buildings. There should be town hall. It shouldn't be, no matter how consequential a person is, it isn't fair to single any one person out. That's why I think it was good that the field at the high school was named a memorial field. And I know this was a sensitive subject when Major Broda passed away, and there was a lot of back and forth. And I think, for myself, I just don't feel that we can name things for groups. I mean, I would think, Veterans Hall or something like that, but I think naming it for one person, I don't think it is in perpetuity, because any other board can just say, we're taking that name off and we're putting somebody else up there. But I just don't feel we should be naming properties for people. These are properties of the town of Auburn, and they belong to everyone, and no one should walk into a building or into a town park and think that this belongs to somebody more than someone else. It belongs to everybody. Everybody should get the use of it, and if we're going to name anything, it should be for a group of individuals, much like Memorial Field, and I think we really should get away from, I think we've been on a spree of naming things for people, and I'm not taking issue with anybody's vote or anybody's decision. I don't feel that we should be, I didn't feel we should be doing it when I wasn't a selectman, and I certainly don't feel like we should be doing it now that I'm currently on the board.
So I think we would have to, I mean, certainly we can have a motion, but I think we would have to go back and look at the history of how naming of an infrastructure came under the authority of the Board of Selectmen, because it's long been under the authority of the Selectmen, as naming anything on the school side has been under the authority. So I guess we would have to do research as to how that came about, and then also develop a clear policy, whether we're going to name infrastructures, omit naming them after individuals, allowing a room or, a wall or, an entranceway or whatever it may be. But and I don't expect you to have that answer tonight, but we'll have to look at to see how that came about.
If I may, back some time ago, the fields over at Hogan Arena were not named, they were the Auburn Fields. And my wife and I got a petition together and went to town meeting and asked that that be named Lemansky's Field. And that's how that came about over there. So it might have been by petition to see if the town meeting would vote to have that done. And I think it may be part of the procedure, maybe, that if we were going to do something like that, that may be something to come into the mix, that you, if somebody feels strongly enough to put a petition together and have it go through the town meeting. And that's what we did with Lemansky Park. So I don't know if that'd be something to be, a suggestion to be entertained.
Certainly happy to look at, like, the history. I know the senior center is named for someone, the park, several school things. So I think we need to do some research on how it came under the authority of the Board of Selectmen. And it, like Mr. Carpenter said, it's, taking it out of our authority if we so choose. But then I would imagine there would have to be some type of policy, whether it went to town meeting, and are we the board that determines that you put a petition together? So we need to do some work on this, is my point.
Okay, anything else on that? Okay, anything else?
It's Mr. La Liberty's comments, which I think there were just a couple that the liquor license policy. And then he pointed out a typo, which is, we can just take care of. But on the front page, under section 100 and section 2.6, if the board wanted to hear from Mr. La Liberty on those recommendations, because those are the major changes. The others are just things we've already addressed.
Sure. I have to look back at them to see what I was writing.
Thinking?
Yeah, but, all right, so it looks like for section 100, I think my thoughts were, and these are just suggestions that I saw when reading through them. I'm not married to them or the wording, just wanted to let the board, or draw the board's attention to them, or really the subcommittees, and see what their decisions were. Section 100, I know we have used cell phones in past meetings since I've been on the board during public hearings for either pictures or to show the sound level of events. So I didn't know if we should amend that section to allow us to do that in the future. or if we should change the wording around somehow, either to leave it up to the discretion of the chair or the board to decide when the use of a device in that way would be appropriate. So I just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention because it is actually in the policy. And we have used them before, and I think it was to the benefit of our meeting to use them, so I don't think, so I think that's something to look at. And then the other instance, one second. Yeah, this was just on the terminations of members. I don't see it as ever being something that would come across, but in case it did, I was just trying to see if there was a way to make it a little bit more, the process a little bit more detailed, because to me it came across as vague. So I think throwing a suggestion out there. But again, that's everyone's interpretation. I just thought it sounded vague for such a, I mean, this would be an extreme circumstance. So I just thought that should be something that's very well step by step. This is what has to happen. Again, it's not something that I foresee happening, certainly not with this board, but just with the importance of that section, I just thought it should be well defined. And those are my only two. Like you said, most of these were already addressed in the subcommittees. So that's all that I had to say on those two.
So when we're talking about formation and committee membership and terminations, you're referring to boards that you're referring to appointments that this board makes, specifically Zoning Board of Appeals, Finance. Is that right? Yeah. Or any subcommittee that we may form, but that would be a subcommittee of us. So, okay, we can look at, I mean, how do board members feel about looking at that?
I would agree that we should look at it, and I would say, how are we going to know? I think that's the biggest part of it. I think we've always kind of had this language in there, but is it incumbent upon the chair to notify the board saying, hey, I've got a problem member, or da-da-da-da-da, something's happening, you know? I mean, it really falls to the chairman of that committee to notify us, or this board, I should say, of those type of things.
Because that may be something we want to take into consideration under the reappointment process, and, you know, if we don't know that a member has had an absentee. So outside of our policy, following up on what Mr. Carpenter just said, we may want to send a letter to the chairman of the boards that we appoint, saying, you know, we are interested, you know, in following our own policies. Please keep the board notified of any extended absences or something, and we can do that at another meeting.
I can take a look at that.
Yeah.
I would also say that there should be an opportunity for that board member to address us, and they may want to explain. I mean, it could be something that you don't want to get into. It might be sensitive.
Well, that's, yeah, I was going
But
to say that.
I think there should be some form of appeal. We shouldn't just, the chairman sends us a note, we got a problem member. I think
Oh, yeah.
we should put it to their option that they can appeal, or at least come in and talk to us and explain potentially why they've been absent. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why people don't make meetings. Obviously, certain things happen.
So this policy just needs a little continued work. Because parts of that is in here on the other section, so
Yeah.
we'll just clean it up. Thank you, we put a lot of back and forth into this.
And if I could, just as a general thought on any of the policies, we should really be more specific as to what it is we expect. I mean, for applications, you know, we have business owners saying, I've been dealing with this for 3 years. Well, okay, but I haven't, so I need good plans to show me, and you need to be writing a good description as to what you want. I don't think it should wait to the meeting for the person to come in and say, this is what I want to do, this is generally what I want to do. There should be definitely more description, and there should be, and I know there's been mention of amending the applications so that hours of operation is specific to if it is an event versus a business hours, because apparently that is confusing. But I think, for me, I would like to see a lot of information on that so that they know what they're getting and it's clear, even for the poll hearing. I mean, they submit very, very limited documentation, and anytime you ask them something, they provide very limited information. So the more that we can do to whoever's preparing these, to have them give us better descriptions. Because
I would agree with you in part. Typical of poll locations, it's a pole's going at 325 feet northeast of A Street. This is the type of thing that they give us, and there isn't much more information we can get. They do send the information out. They send it to us. They say, this is what it is. And so we can understand it. You take a drive to A Street and say, yeah, that pole is going to be placed there. You're going to understand what it is. And then you can ask the questions. So that's a part of our homework. So when you say they don't give us enough information, I think the drawings they give us is enough. So there are some cases where, significant information or a little bit more summary should be given, but in some cases of a poll location or something like that, I mean, it's pretty much cut and dry. How much more information can they give you except for what the poll material is going to be?
I would say photos, because you're looking at it as an administrator. You have people coming in, looking at these applications. We're a conduit for information to the public as well. Okay, so for you, that's enough. You understand it, it's great, it's fine, but they should provide pictures. They should at least give us something akin to scale so that we know what it is. And I don't think that's too much to ask them to do instead of going on Google Maps and giving us some red blob, which if I'm in a butter and have never seen a plan in my life, that's not going to give me a lot of good information. And we have to think, who is our customer? It's not National Grid. It's not ourselves. It's the public. And we want, so to me, a common sense thing would ask them to do some street level, pictures. They can actually put something down to take a photo and give a resident
Yeah, I guess
perspective.
if you want to go to that route, but I know that this board tonight has taken a look at National Grid, and with the information they gave us, it was a unanimous vote to go forward, so there was sufficient information there. So to have that additional information may be a little bit more than, what we really require.
But again, we're not the customer. The customer is the public. We're supposed to be assisting the public and abutters so that they know what's happening in their neighborhood. Because I don't live on Brook Street, so I don't know if we had somebody who was very upset over off of Bryn Mawr Ave about the location. And we had 3 or 4 meetings on it. So clearly, I'm not just talking about National Grid, I'm talking about any application. Give us better definition so that when an abutter, or anybody who's interested, because these are all public documents, anybody can come in and may want to know what's going on, they have some idea of what it is. How that fleshes out is obviously a board decision.
We can take a look at that when we go back to look at the policies and see how that can be associated with the policy as we go. Is there anything else?
Actually, I do have one more thing. On the rules of procedure, I would like us to adopt a procedure on how we're going to adopt rules. I think the school committee, I asked Dr. Brunel, and she did send me their procedure, and I think the school committee has a far more open procedure and a more transparent procedure. I don't want to make a decision this night. I just got this 2 days ago. We had a member who put a lot of effort into his work. I've had 2 days to go over it. I think we should do something similar to even the Millbury Board of Selectmen. There has to be 3 readings before there's a vote. I think we need to,
Well, I think that in that case, if you had received something from the outside, we were going to be talking about the policies tonight. We should have had copies of that, so we could have had some discussion on it tonight to begin that discussion. We don't have to vote all the policies tonight. If there's some that we've already brought back to, yeah, we're going to go back to the drawing board. But if you have suggestions that you have looked into, and it would have been great to have them shared here tonight so that we can have further discussion.
I did share them tonight, Mr. Chairman. I wasn't prepared to have a full-on discussion. It was, we're talking about it tonight, we're talking about amending our procedures. I'm bringing that up now as part of the discussion, which is appropriate.
Thank you. Mr. Carpenter, if you can just forward me that information you received, we can take a look at that. And correct me if I'm wrong, but we didn't take specific action on these. It was a sense of the board to look at amending these policies. We'll come back again with any changes, input from the board, and then we'll be taking a vote on it. But we haven't specifically taken votes on the recommendations tonight.
No, I understand that. I just think that as we're going through this, I would like us to have a formal process so that those of us in the minority at times actually have something to defend ourselves with at times, and we do need that.
I have it written, and I'm happy to,
Thank you.
I'm glad you can send me that info to look at it, and I'll also look at any other information.
Thank you, Mrs. Goodrich. Is there anything else about all of these policies that we've got in front of us tonight? Is there any other discussion, comments, opinions? Otherwise, the subcommittee will go back and take a look at what we've talked about tonight, and whatever other information we receive from members, we will take a look at and bring back for discussion at our next meeting. Is there anything else, Mrs. Goodrich?
No, I'm sorry, no.
Okay, no,
good.
that's perfectly all right. Okay, we have tonight the town manager items. To apply, the town manager to apply and accept and expend funds of the State Homeland Security Program, Citizens Corp Program grant in the amount of up to $3,500. Ms. Jacobson.
Thank you. This is an annual program. This is the state's 2019. I know we're in FY20, but they are expending federal 2019 funds. A little bit different timeline. And we are allowed to apply for up to $3,500. It's a formula-based grant based on your population. So every year, we've been fortunate to apply for this grant, and I think all but one year we received it. So we have been coordinating with the emergency management director and the assistant director, and they've come up with a couple of items that we need. Now, this grant is specific to CERT teams. That's what the SHSP, CCP is Citizens Corp program. So basically, this is to help provide equipment for our CERT team, which is great. Equipment, training, and other qualified as expenses. So what we'd like to apply for this time is a PC, a portable laptop PC that CERT can have, so they can access any web-based items that we may need during an emergency or during exercises, such as our web EOC. The other piece of equipment would be a portable generator, so they can charge their phones, charge their electronic equipment, and also put this portable generator at a shelter should they have to operate one, so that residents of the shelter at the time can charge their cell phones as well if they have to leave their homes quickly. And then the third thing would be a phone that it's a basic VoIP, voice over telephone, that would be assigned to CERT with a telephone number, that in an emergency they can bring that to the EOC, just like all of the department heads. We can bring our phones to the EOC, plug in, and we can all function in one spot. So it would be buying equipment for them. I think it's a great idea. Support the application fully.
Okay. Any comments? Mrs. Lilly.
Just a quick question through the chair to the town manager. Do we have to match any of the funds for it?
No, this one, no match at all. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion we authorize the acceptance, expendence under the 2019 State Homeland Security Program Citizens Corp Program and grant in the amount of up to $3,500.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. We have no tabled items tonight. Board of Selectmen member items, we have none. Is there anything from board members? From town administration?
I think we're good.
Anything from public comments? Mr. Page?
Thank you. I would just like to ask the chairman of the Board of Selectmen, what is the question that is going on the May ballot? You didn't address it tonight. You voted on it, but you didn't address it. Could you please address it?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
That would have been come under the Board of Registrar's certification of request by petition for ballot question to be placed on the May 19, 2020 annual town election ballot. And the question would be, shall the town vote to accept the provisions of Section 19B of Chapter 41 of the general laws and thereby provide permanent tenure for Deborah A. Grimo, the president incumbent in the office of town clerk? That law requires she receive 600 certified signatures by petition to be submitted to the registrars so that she may put her name on the ballot for tenure for the town clerk's position.
All righty. Thank you very much. I just didn't know it, so I figured nobody said. I figured I'd ask. Have a good night.
I appreciate bringing that out. Thank you. If there's nothing else, I'll entertain, well, I'm sorry, we have minutes from February 10, 2020. Is there any errors, omissions, corrections? If not, I'll accept them as presented. And Sharon, thank you very much for that. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you and good night.